History is often remembered for glory, empire, and victory. But every nation also carries moments of darkness, days of fear, loss, and uncertainty. Britain is no different. From deadly plagues to civil war, from devastating fires to world wars, there were moments when the future of the nation itself seemed uncertain. These were the darkest days in British history. Let us begin in the 14th century. In 1348, a silent killer arrived on British shores. It was known as the Black Death. Within months, entire villages were wiped out. Cities fell silent, farms were abandoned, streets were filled with fear. Historians estimate that nearly 1/3, perhaps even half of England's population died. There was no cure, no understanding of germs. People believed it was a punishment from God. Families buried their loved ones in mass graves. Priests died, doctors died, workers died. For a moment in history, it felt as though society itself was collapsing. Yet somehow, Britain survived. But darkness would return. In 1666, disaster struck again. A small fire began in a bakery on Pudding Lane. Within hours, it spread out of control. Wooden houses, tightly packed together, burned like tinder. For 4 days, flames consumed the city in what became known as the Great Fire of London. Thousands of homes were destroyed. St. Paul's Cathedral collapsed in flames. Tens of thousands were left homeless. London, the heart of England, lay in ruins. But from the ashes, the city would be rebuilt in stone, stronger than before. Still, Britain's greatest internal crisis was yet to come. In 1642, the country was divided. King against Parliament, neighbor against neighbor, family against family. This was the English Civil War. The conflict tore the nation apart for nearly a decade. In an unprecedented act, King Charles I was captured, tried, and executed. For the first time in British history, a reigning monarch was put to death by his own people. England became a republic under Oliver Cromwell. The monarchy was gone, the political system was uncertain, the nation was fractured and exhausted. Eventually, the monarchy would return, but the balance of power had changed forever. Then came the 20th century. Industrial power had made Britain one of the strongest empires in the world, but that power would be tested in ways never imagined. In 1914, Britain entered World War I. What many believed would be a short conflict turned into 4 years of brutal trench warfare. Young men marched proudly to war. Millions never returned. Entire towns lost a generation. When the war ended in 1918, Britain had won, but at a terrible cost. Yet only 2 decades later, an even greater storm gathered. In 1939, Britain declared war on Nazi Germany. This was World War II. The threat was no longer distant battlefields, it came from the skies. In 1940, German bombers launched a relentless assault on British cities in what became known as the Blitz. Night after night, bombs fell on London, Coventry, Liverpool, and many other cities. Homes were destroyed, families sheltered underground in train stations. Air raid sirens became part of daily life. Smoke filled the skies. Entire neighborhoods disappeared overnight. It was one of the most terrifying periods in British history. Yet something remarkable happened. Instead of collapsing, the nation stood firm. Civilians showed resilience. Communities supported one another. Leadership, including figures like Winston Churchill, inspired hope. The darkest hour became a symbol of determination. And when the war finally ended in 1945, Britain emerged victorious. Though weakened, changed, and no longer the unquestioned global superpower it once had been. These moments, plague, fire, civil war, world wars, were not just tragedies, they were turning points. The Black Death reshaped society and labor. The Great Fire transformed London's architecture. The Civil War limited royal power and strengthened Parliament. The World Wars redefined Britain's role in the world. Darkness forced change, and through every crisis, Britain adapted, rebuilt, and endured. History teaches us that the darkest days often shape the brightest futures. Because survival is not just about strength, it is about resilience. And in its darkest hours, Britain proved it had both. This is not just the story of suffering, it is the story of endurance. These were the darkest days in British history, and the moments that defined a nation.